Dr. AmanyAsfour. She is the African Union Foundation Council member who is authorized to talk to us today about the African Economic Forum that will be held sometime soon in Mauritius. I'll just give the floor quickly to Dr. Asfour to quickly introduce the subject, and if there are questions, we'll take them before she leaves. You have the floor.
Thank you. Just the African Economic Platform, it's a project of the African Union Foundation. We all know that the African Union Foundation has been established according to a decision summit to mobilize alternative resources for the African Union Commission. We understand that our developmental agenda of 2063 development agenda about a prosperous, peaceful, powerful Africa, integrated and intellectual, driven by the citizens of Africa, is all about the socio-economic transformation of Africa. It's all about empowering our people of Africa, empowering the private sector of Africa. Within the priority areas of the African Union Foundation, we have the science, technology, innovation, which is a major and crucial role for the African Union Foundation to see how we can transform our African continent. It's about women and youth. It's about partnership with the private sector. That's why the Africa Platform, Economic Platform, is about integration of the heads of states with the private sector, with the media, in order to come about for alternative mobilizing resources and domestic resources mobilization for the priorities of the African Union Commission. The Africa Platform is going to be in Mauritius in March. It will bring about all the heads of states of Africa with interaction with the private sector in order to put on the agenda of the heads of states and also for the private sector what are the needs and the challenges of our African continent. We had one example during the Ebola crisis where the African Union Foundation actually have mobilized resources of $34 million for the interaction with the heads with the Ebola crisis. It was raised from the private sector of Africa. So the private sector of Africa is a crucial partner for the African Union Foundation. It's a crucial partner with the heads of states. And it is time to know that Africa will never develop unless we involve our private sector, we partner with them, unless we do our priority area with science, technology, innovation. Because one of the projects also the African Union Foundation is looking for and focusing on is about innovations for challenges of African Union. We have a lot of universities in our African continent, but actually when it comes to science and technology and our scientists and our transformation of the ideas of the scientists, it just stands still at the universities. The project of the African Union Foundation is actually to commercialize the scientific productions of our universities. We have a request from Jomo Kenyatta with reference of a lot of innovation that the African Union Foundation will be looking at. We have the youth innovations on the continent. We know that Africa is the richest continent on earth, but yet it is the poorest of them all because we don't invest in our human resources, we don't invest in science and technology, we don't invest in youth and women, who are the majority of the African continent. So the African Union Foundation has put on its priority the people of Africa, has put the partnership of the private sector, because in order to develop Africa, we have to have economic growth. Economic growth can never be done unless we transform our raw materials, unless we add value to our raw materials, not as importing our value-added materials, but exporting to the whole world. And we have all the resources of the world. We have the natural resources, we have the human resources. So it's time, actually, we see how the African Union Foundation, as established by a summit decision, could play a big role and a crucial role to mobilize domestic resources for the transformation of Africa. And that's why we really applaud the head of state who will be attending the Africa Platform Economic Forum in March, and their will to transform Africa through their partnership with the private sector. And also we invite all the private sector to be part of this Africa Economic Platform to show their role in partnership. We know that our stakes of development are the governments, the civil society, and the private sector. So the private sector have shown their commitment during the Ebola crisis, and will also show all their commitment during the challenges of the African continent. During the transformation, we have a lot of projects with reference to youth innovations who have invented machines for addressing agriculture and agribusiness, but no financing. Private sector can come and finance those innovations and could be really machines for addressing agriculture and agribusiness. We have seen how application of ICT is very relevant, important to our youth, to the support of small and medium enterprises. Our SMEs in Africa need the support, need the innovation, need the scientists to make it happen. They cannot compete with mega companies that have invested in science and technology and research and development. So really, this is our role as African Union Foundation to tap into the resources of our African continent, to partner with the private sector for the socio-economic transformation of Africa and for the empowerment of our African continent through its women and youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. AmanyAsfour. We've gotten very elaborate information and educative content about what the African Union Foundation is all about. We are now opening floor for questions. If there is any question, please indicate and let's proceed. Any question? I can see one hand. Okay, thank you.
Merci. My name is Andre Gakwaya. I work for Rwanda News Agency, a journal Grand Lac Hebdo, AU Foundation Council. Where is based your institution? How do you work with the civil society of each African country? Do you have a representation in each African country? Voilà, merci.
Thank you, Andre. Any other question before we proceed? Okay, Doctor, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for this important question. Actually, the African Union Foundation, as I have just mentioned, is established by a decision summit. It is registered in a member state of the African Union, which is Mauritius. It has geographic representation and also academic representation. It is chaired by Her Excellency, the chairperson of the African Union, Dr. Dlamini Zuma. She's chairing the foundation, and the foundation has figures from across the African continent, His Excellency Alpha Omar Konari, Her Excellency Luisa Diego, the former Prime Minister of Mozambique. It has also on its board and council members a lot of the business sector from all over Africa. The major issue is the council members are there to promote and popularize for the agenda of Africa 2063 development agenda, and also to make sure that within our activities we address the challenges of the African continent and connect with all the private sector across the whole Africa to mobilize domestic resources for the challenges of Africa.
Thank you. And if I may ask a quick one, the African Economic Forum that will be held in Mauritius, who will be those expected to attend, and what will be the expected outcome of that forum?
Well, the Africa Economic Platform will be taking place, as I mentioned, in March in Mauritius. All the heads of states of the African Union are invited to attend. In the previous edition, when it was supposed to done, I think about 12 heads of states have confirmed. But now we are expecting many of the heads of states of Africa that will be coming, and realizing the importance of the private sector that will be attending and interacting with heads of states. It's time that the private sector of Africa should know that African Union is not only a political organ, it is about addressing the people's needs. It is about addressing the challenges. And African Union Foundation will be a catalyst, actually, to popularize the agenda of 2063 development agenda, to make this connection between the private sector and the heads of states and the policy organs, and to mobilize the people of Africa through this economic platform, which will be the premier, actually, event for the economic in all over Africa. It will be an event that will gather all the heads of states with the private sector of the whole Africa and address our needs of the African continent according to Agenda 2063 Development Agenda.
With this, we have come to the end of the press conference. We want to thank you, Dr. AmanyAsfour, for coming to enlighten us more about the African Union Foundation. Please, dear colleagues, thank you for attending the press conference. Thank you, Doctor, to come and address the issue. And now we have come to the end of the press conference. Do you have any concluding thoughts or some message you want to send out there?
Well, my message is that Africa has all the resources of the world. By engaging all the stakeholders, the partners of development, we will have our economic independence. We know that Africa has struggled against colonization, which is political liberation, for 50 years. And when we celebrated our 50-year anniversary in 2013, it's the vision of the next 50 years to have economic liberation. And I always have a motto, which I always say, when we are economically independent, financial independence gives you the power of choice and voice. And it's time for Africa to rise and have its own choice and voice, and not depending on funding from the West, but for transforming the private sector, transforming Africa to have our real economic liberation and to have our choice and voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.